Sri Sathya Sai Kalpadruma, Day 2. Om Sri Sai Maheshwara Swarupaya Namaha. Salutations to Sri Sai, who is the embodiment of Lord Shiva. Bhagwan Sri Sathya Sai Baba is Shiva Shakti incarnate. Time and again he has shown this to his devotees. Several times, many Shiva devotees have had Bhagwan Baba's darshan in the form of their desired deity. The story of Swami Vamadeva Maharaj will enlighten devotees. With a desire to attain liberation, Vamadeva Maharaj renounced the world and became a sannyasi. When he was 85 years old, he felt that his body was now old and feeble, and any moment he may have to leave it. So with the aim to offer his body to the river Ganga and attain liberation, he traveled to Kashi. He meditated on the form of Param Shiva and jumped into the river Ganga. At that very moment a miracle took place. He saw an effulgent deity with the crown of thick black hair on the head, Abhaya Mudra, hand raised in blessing, an orange robe, instead of the ash-smeared, camphor-like fair form of Shiva he was meditating upon. It vanished in a moment. Next there was another miracle. As he was sinking deep into the water, he found that he was suddenly being pushed upwards by a powerful force, and he started floating on the water like a wooden log. A strong wave emerged in the silent waters of Ganga. He was pushed towards the shore, and once again the Ganga Mata resumed its calm. At the time, Swami Vamadeva thought that maybe he should continue to sit there in Padmasan, lotus posture, so that the monsoon floods will once again suck his body and it will be offered to Ganga Mata and Lord Shiva. On the same night, a senior army officer and also a Sai devotee had a dream. He dreamt that a sannyasi was sitting in Bhagwan Baba's lap, and Baba was feeding him with a laddu as if he were a small child. Next morning, this army officer went for a walk along the shores of river Ganga, and he happened to see the same sannyasi there whom he had seen in a dream the earlier night. He was none other than Swami Vamadeva Maharaj. Urgently, he hurried to him, offered pranams, and started recounting the dream and praising Bhagwan Baba. Listening to him, Swami Vamadeva said, "I have not seen you earlier. Isn't this your imagination?" At this, the officer began to describe Bhagwan Baba's divine form. Swami Vamadeva recollected the vision he had seen in the river Ganga. It was exactly the same. Vamadeva Maharaj asked himself, "Is this Sai Baba an incarnation of Shiva?" His inner voice answered, "Spend some more time with this devotee, find out some more about this Parameshwar, and then be assured." Accordingly, Swami Vamadeva stayed for some time on the Manikarnika Ghat. He heard Bhagwan Baba's glory from the devotee, and then he was convinced that his Maheshwara and Sai were one, and spent the rest of his life in meditating upon his Sai Maheshwara. Om Shri Sathya Sai Natharpanamastu. Om Sri Sai Partigramodbhavaya Namaha. Salutations to Sri Sai, who was born in a village called Puttaparthi. Sri Kondamaraju, a pious soul residing in the remote village of Puttaparthi in Andhra Pradesh, once had an extraordinary dream. It was divine and wondrous. He saw a deity of divine effulgence, who however seemed distressed. She was Devi Satyabhama, waiting for her Sri Krishna, who had gone away to bring her some parijata flowers. Day after day passed, but there was no sign of Sri Krishna. She was distressed, and tears were flowing from her eyes. It started raining heavily, but Satyabhama continued to wait, getting completely drenched. When Kondamaraju noticed her, she asked him to give her some shelter where she could continue her wait for Sri Krishna. The dream ended, and Sri Kondamaraju made a resolve to build a temple for the Devi. Accordingly, he constructed a mandir, but due to shortage of funds, a stone was erected in place of the idol. In this way, the commitment to Devi Satyabhama was fulfilled by Sri Kondamaraju. Puttaparthi became an abode of the Devi, and therefore Bhagavan Sri Krishna had to incarnate again in the village of Parthi to meet Satyabhama, who had been awaiting his arrival. Puttaparthi was formerly known as Gollapalli, meaning thereby the village of cowherds. Many cowherds, along with their wealth of cattle, lived in this remote village. One day a strange occurrence took place. One cowherd noticed that one of his cows returned home in the evening after grazing with an empty udder. When this became an everyday feature, he set out to find the reason behind it, and he followed the cow. What he witnessed was unimaginable. A snake came out of a snake hill, rolled itself around the cow's hind legs, and began to drink milk from the udder. The cowherd lost his temper, and he picked up a heavy stone, hurled it at the snake, and killed it. Ever since this incident, the cowherd families of Gollapalli gradually declined in numbers and snake hills proliferated all over. People believed it to be a curse of that dying snake. This is how Gollapalli came to be called Puttavardhini, a village of growing snake hills. In times to come, it was abbreviated to Puttaparthi. When the second incarnation of Sai took birth in the village, in no time Puttaparthi was transformed into not only Gokulam but a heavenly paradise. Today this village has a prominent place on the world map, and it is a place of pilgrimage for millions of people around the world. Om Sri Sathya Sai Kalpadruma. Om Sri Sai Partikshetra Nivasine Namaha. Salutations to Sri Sai, who resides in the holy region of Parthi. Bharat alone is the holy land where God has incarnated from age to age. In every incarnation of God, one finds that the avatar's Janma Bhumi, place of birth, and Karma Bhumi, place of activity, are different. Sri Rama was born in Ayodhya, but the mission of destroying Ravana and other demons was carried out in Lanka. Sri Krishna was born at Madura, but he narrated the Bhagavad Gita on the Kurukshetra and made Dwarka his capital. But the present Sri Sathya Sai avatar is an exception, because his birthplace and the place of his mission are the same, and that is Puttaparthi. Mother Ishwaramma was the catalyst for this. On 20th October 1940, Satyanarayana Raju declared, "From now on I am no more your Satya, I am Sai." Saying thus, he left the house of his brother Seshamaraju in Uravakonda. Satya then walked to a garden in front of Sri Anjaneyulu's house and sat under a tree. He taught his first bhajan, Manasa Bhajare Guru Charanam, Dustar Bhavasagara Taranam, to all those who had gathered there. The bhajan singing continued for 3 successive days. Suddenly, Baba said aloud, "Look, Maya has come." Everyone turned in the direction indicated and saw Mother Ishwaramma and Pedda Venkaparaju. Both of them urged Baba to return home, but he said, "Who belongs to whom? Who is the son? Who is the father?" Ishwaramma wailed, but to no avail. Finally, Baba told her, "Bring me some food." She rushed home and brought some food in a platter. Baba mixed it all up and made several balls out of it. He swallowed 3 of them and said, "Now Maya has run away. No need to worry." He turned around and went back to the garden. Now Ishwaramma accepted the fact that from now on he was not her son, but Sai. She said to Baba, "I will not come in the way of your task, but you must return back to Puttaparthi." Baba acceded to her request and left for Puttaparthi. In this manner, the avatar accepted his Janma Bhumi, place of birth, as his Karma Bhumi, place of his mission. Mr. Homer, a resident of California, USA, works as a scientist for NASA. He photographed Puttaparthi through a satellite stationed about 200 miles above the Earth. But when he saw the photographs, he was disappointed. Due to the great distance, only black and white clouds were seen on the photographs. Years later, he showed the photographs to some guests. While seeing them, a lady suddenly exclaimed, "This is Sai Baba!" On close observation, they were able to perceive Sri Sathya Sai's face clearly. It was composed from those numerous black and white clouds. The crown of his thick black hair, eyes, nose, and even the mole on Swami's cheek were clearly visible. Mr. Homer calculated on the basis of the latitudes and concluded that Swami's form was spread over an area of 40 miles in length and 20 miles in width. Everyone was surprised, and they all realized that although Swami is in Puttaparthi, his grace and presence is spread over a very large area. Om Shri Sathya Sai Kalpadruma. Om Shri Sai Yashakaya Shirdivasine Namaha. Salutations to Sri Sai, who was famous in the previous incarnation as a resident of Shirdi. At the age of 14, Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba declared that he was the reincarnation of Shirdi Sai Baba. In 1963, on the auspicious occasion of Guru Purnima, he spoke about Shirdi Sai, Sathya Sai, and the next incarnation, Prema Sai. He gave fresh and new information about all the three avatars, which nobody was aware of. In 1940, after he declared that he was the reincarnation of Shirdi Sai, many came to him to seek his darshan, but most of them did not know about Shirdi. Baba used to often sing to them the glory of the Dhuni, Udi, Dwarka Mai, Neem Tree, Bootiwada, and Samadhi Mandir through bhajans. Once he gave a vision of the Shirdi Sai Samadhi, Neem Tree, Khandoba Mandir to Srimati Subbamma, the doubting Thomas advocate Krishnamachari, and Pedda Venkaparaju in Puttaparthi itself. From then on, Pedda Venkaparaju's and the advocate's doubts about Baba were cleared. Later, Swami revealed through many incidents that he was Shirdi Sai in his earlier incarnation. Here is one of those incidents. For the first time, during Navaratri in 1961, Bhagavan Baba organized the Veda Purusha Sapta Jnana Yajna. All the learned Brahmins were invited to perform the yajna with Brahmashri Shivaram Bairagi Shastri as the head priest. Bhagavan was very keen that the yajna should be performed properly, according to the prescribed rites and rituals. So he called Brahmashri Shastri to him and asked for a list of all the required materials for the yajna. Shastri prepared a list after consultations with his colleagues and gave it to Bhagavan. Accordingly, all the materials were acquired and brought there. Despite this, just 5 minutes before the yajna was to commence, Shastri realized that he had forgotten to list a particular type of kalash, a vessel required for the yajna. A petrified Shastri approached Swami and confessed his lapse. The ever-compassionate Swami said, "This is why I had asked you for a proper list. Now only 5 minutes are left for the yajna muhurtam." Saying this, Swami went inside a room and within 3 minutes came out with a beautiful silver kalash with pictures of deities inscribed on it. On seeing that perfectly suited kalash, Shastri was wonderstruck. Bhagavan Baba told him, "In the Shirdi avatar, I had kept this kalash in the Chincholi palace. At the moment it was lying around with other odd things in the storeroom of the palace. I just went there and brought it back." The letters Sa Ba, meaning Sai Baba, were inscribed on the kalash. It is only by his divine grace that we have been fortunate to witness the divine leelas of Prabhu Sathya Sai, who was Shirdi Sai in the previous incarnation. Om Shri Sathya Sai Natharpanamastu. Om Shri Sai Jodyadipalli Somappaya Namaha. Salutations to Sri Sai, who indeed is Somappa, or the male and female aspects of Lord Shiva, Shiva Shakti, and whose abode is Kailash. In 1963, on the occasion of Guru Purnima, Swami declared for the first time that he is Shiva Shakti incarnate. We all know that Kailash is the original abode of Shiva Shakti. Once, a devotee named Kailasam came to Swami. Swami asked him what the word Kailasam meant. The devotee was unable to reply. Swami said, "Kailasam is the symbol of cleanliness, holiness, and purity. It also means a pure heart. Therefore, Shiva chose the pinnacle of Kailash as his abode, and as Paramatma, he also resides in the sacred heart of his devotee." This is a story of a Shirdi Sai devotee who had travelled to Bangalore for sightseeing in May 1963. When he, along with his family, was about to get into a hired car, an old man over 6 feet tall, with white hair and beard, wearing a white dhoti and a shirt, came to them asking, "Do you want any help? I belong to this city, so I know it well. If you are going for sightseeing, I can guide you." Charmed by his speech and happy for the help, the devotee readily accepted the offer. The old man showed them the entire Bangalore city, but avoided eating lunch with them. On much insistence he had coffee. In the evening the old man asked the driver to take the car on a particular route. Although the driver was familiar with the city, this particular route was unknown to him. The old man asked to stop the car at a place. He took all of them inside a narrow tunnel. It was dark inside, but there was an oil lamp, and in its light they saw an effulgent Shivalinga. The old man asked everybody to take darshan of the Shivalingam, and also gave them tirth, holy water, but he himself did not partake it. At the end of the day, when the old man was about to leave, the devotee offered him some money, but he refused it. When they asked his name, he said something which was strange, and when asked about his address, he pointed in a particular direction, saying, "Over there." He also told them, "We will meet the day after tomorrow." Before the family were to leave Mumbai, a friend of theirs had suggested that they go to Whitefield and seek darshan of Sri Sathya Sai Baba, who is the reincarnation of Shirdi Sai. Accordingly, they reached Whitefield at noon. After having waited in front of the closed gates in the hot afternoon sun for half an hour, they received a message: "Call those people from Mumbai inside." When the family went in, Swami welcomed them personally. He smiled and asked them, "So how did you like our Bangalore? Have you visited all the places? We had met the day before yesterday." The gentlemen realized that the old man who accompanied them as a guide was none other than Sri Sai Baba himself. Now he remembered what the old man had told them, the name Joldi Adipalli Somappa, the Shiva who resides in pure hearts. Swami himself showed the old Shiva temple to this devotee with a pure heart. Yet it was mysterious, as there was no trace of that temple later, despite all efforts by many devotees to locate it. Many devotees have had similar experiences. Whenever faced with calamities, Jodi Adipalli Somappa has given them darshan and rescued them. May this Jodi Adipalli Somappa shower his grace upon us to turn our hearts into Kailasham. This is our prayer to this Shiva Shakti incarnation. Om Shri Sathya Sai Arpanamastu. Om Shri Sai Bharadwaj Rishi Gotraya Namaha. Salutations to Sri Sai, who is born in the family lineage of the great Rishi Bharadwaj. On 23rd May 1940, when Baba first declared to Pedda Venkaparaju that "I am Sai Baba," he also indicated that his Gotra lineage is Bharadwaj. However, he shed more light on this during the Guru Purnima discourse in 1963, when he said, "The reason why I have taken birth in Bharadwaj Gotra is the boon Bharadwaja received from Shiva. Once, Bharadwaj Rishi thought of performing a yajna. He went personally to Kailash mountain to invite Shiva Parvati. At the time, Shiva and Parvati were engaged in a dance. They were so engrossed that they did not notice Bharadwaj Rishi for 7 days. The Rishi could only see Shiva but not Shakti. On the 8th day, when he got darshan of Mata Parvati, she cast a glance at him, smiled benignly, and once again Shiva Parvati got engrossed in the dance. The Rishi felt sad. He felt ignored and thought of leaving Kailas. But his left leg was numb due to standing continuously in snow for 8 days. He also lost his vision in the left eye and then collapsed. Shiva Parvati stopped their dance. Lord Shiva came to his rescue and revived him by sprinkling some water from his kamandalu. When the Rishi regained consciousness, Shiva told him, "Shakti Mata's glance and her smile was a blessing for your yajna. We will definitely be present for the yajna." When Bharadwaj Rishi performed the yajna, both Shiva and Shakti manifested during Purnahuti and blessed Bharadwaj Rishi with a boon, saying, "We will take birth in human form in your lineage 3 times. The first incarnation will be Shiva Avatar, who will be known as Shirdi Sai. The second incarnation will be Shiva Shakti Avatar, who will be known as Sri Sathya Sai, and the third incarnation will be Shakti Avatar, who will be adored as Prema Sai." Further, Shiva added, "You thought Shakti had neglected you at Kailash for 8 days. Due to this, Shakti will suffer in Shiva Shakti Avatar. At that time, I, Shiva, will cure her by sprinkling the holy water on her, just as I did for you at Kailash." Just as Bharadwaj Rishi had darshan of Shiva Shakti, Swami also has given darshan to some of his devotees in the form of Shiva Shakti. This was in the earlier days during Navaratris, when Swami was taken in a procession. Many of his devotees were blessed with a resplendent darshan of the Shiva Shakti form. Om Shri Sathya Sai Kalpadruma. Om Sri Sai Bhaktavatsalaya Namaha. Salutations to Sri Sai, who is very affectionate to his devotees. Whenever devotees call out to Swami with fervor, he immediately rushes to their aid, even if he is physically far away. Just as a mother showers affection on her child, Sai Mata showers love on all her devotees. She saves them from material and spiritual downfall and uplifts them. The devotees may recall many such incidents where they have experienced Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba's affection. This is one such incident when Swami was young and in Madras. One day he told his devotees, "Very soon I will go and give darshan to one devotee who has served me in my earlier incarnation." Soon after this, Swami one day fell on the ground, and his body became stiff like a wooden log. The devotees around him were worried. Suddenly Vibhuti started oozing out of the sole of his left leg. Words in Hindi and Marathi could be heard from Swami's mouth, but the tone of his voice was different and sounded like that of an old man. Soon he came back to his normal self and sat down. He told the devotees, "I had gone to Shirdi to give darshan to Abdul." When some devotees inquired at Shirdi, they were told that Abdul from Shirdi had passed away at the same time. Who was this Abdul Baba? This Abdul Baba was originally from Nanded in Maharashtra. In 1908 he came to Shirdi for Sainath's darshan and stayed there permanently. Until Sainath took Samadhi, Abdul Baba lived in the Chavadi. He used to work all day and regard it as seva of Sainath. He used to especially like the task of sweeping the Masjid Mai and lighting the evening lamp. Besides this, he did a very important task. While in the Dwarka Mai, whatever Sainath spoke or whatever instructions he imparted, Abdul had a habit of making a note of everything in his personal diary. After Sainath's Samadhi, he spent his time reading the Holy Quran and continued to reside in the Dwarka Mai till his end. To reward Abdul for his seva to the previous body, and to bless him with darshan at the time of his death, the Bhaktavatsal Sri Sathya Sai Nath went from Madras to Shirdi and merged the devotee in himself. Om Shri Sathya Sai Kalpadruma. Om Shri Sai Apandaratmane Namaha. Salutations to Sri Sai, who as the universal consciousness dwells in the heart of every being. Sri Sathya Sai's grace helps all of us to cross this ocean of life. While crossing this Bhavasagar, devotees undergo suffering, pain, and fear, but with Sri Sathya Sai's constant guidance, they are able to reach the shores of bliss and peace easily. At the tender age of 14, Sri Sathya Sai declared his Avatarhood and taught his first bhajan, Manas Bhajare Guru Charanam, Dustar Bhavasagar Taranam. You can cross this turbulent ocean of life only by meditating on the Guru's feet. There is a very touching story that exemplifies this truth. Srimati Amala Shankar, the famous dancer and director, went to Puttaparthi in August 1997. In the month of November, she was to perform Mahamanav, a dance ballet based on the life of Buddha in Prashanti, and this was the purpose of her visit. She sat in darshan along with other ladies, only as a mere formality. She had no devotion for Swami. In fact, she had an adverse opinion. As Swami arrived in darshan, she observed his graceful walk, and she felt as if he was floating. As he approached closer, seeing his divine form, her negative opinion started changing. When Swami finally came to her and said, "Uday Shankar's wife?" she was astonished. How could he recognize me amongst all the ladies, she wondered. Swami pointed his finger towards the interview room and walked on. Amala Shankar did not grasp the meaning of this gesture, so the lady sitting next to her told her to go to the interview room. When she went along with others to the interview room, Swami pulled a chair and asked Amalji to sit on it and said, "Your knees pain a lot. Your left knee especially is more painful, isn't it?" Then he inquired about the rest of her family members. He was most interested in her son, Anand Shankar. Suddenly, Swami said, "Remember, Anand is very important in your life. He uttered this sentence 4 times. Then he asked her, "What do you want?" She said, "Your blessings." Swami immediately materialized a crystal japmala, rosary, and gave it to her, saying, "Here are your blessings. Take." In November 1997, Amalaji went to Puttaparthi to perform the dance ballet Mahamanav on the occasion of International Ladies' Day. Swami liked the ballet. The following year, in November 1998, she again went to Puttaparthi to perform the dance ballet Sita Swayamvar. At the time, her son Anand Shankar and daughter Mamta Shankar also accompanied her. Just prior to the performance, Swami came to them, held Anand Shankar's hands in his, and said, "You will be with me." Earlier, during the first interview, Swami had told Amalaji, "Anand is very important in your life." And while talking to Anand on this occasion, he said, "You will be with me." Nobody really understood the meaning of these 2 sentences at the time. The dance ballet was a success. Swami liked it, so they were immersed in happiness. Amalaji continued her visits to Puttaparthi. In March 1999, all of a sudden, Anand had to undergo a surgery. After the surgery, Amalaji prayed to Swami. Swami called her to Puttaparthi, but did not speak to her for 8 days. On the 8th day, Swami called her, gave her an air ticket, and asked her to go to Kolkata immediately. Her son Anand had passed away. Amalaji had lost her Anand, who was the bliss of her life, who like his name was always joyous and made others happy. This was like a thunderbolt on her. Someone who was with Amalaji said to Swami, "Somebody should accompany her." Swami exclaimed, "Nobody else will go with her." He told Amalaji, "I myself will accompany you." Throughout the entire journey, she could feel Swami's presence with her. She was peaceful and detached, as if she was going for the last darshan of somebody else's son. She looked out from the aircraft and could see black clouds below, and the clouds above were emitting golden rays. Amalaji felt Swami telling her, "These black clouds of calamity are below you, and God's grace is over your head. This is life. How you accept it is up to you." While speaking about this tragic episode, Amalaji speaks in a calm and detached way. She says, "Today I have realized why Anand was important in my life. Bhagavan Baba showered his grace on me, and he also gave me the Atmic strength to tread the right path. Swami tells us to keep doing our assigned task. I am doing it now and will continue to do so until I merge with God." Just like Swami helped Amalaji Shankar, may he give us all the strength to overcome our sufferings. This is our prayer at his divine lotus feet. Om Shri Sathya Sai Kalpadruma. Om Sri Sai Avatarhood Namaha. Salutations to Sri Sai, who is the embodiment of all incarnations. Avataran means to come down. God comes down to earth in human form, so that it is easier for man to attain him. Bhagavan Shri Krishna has proclaimed, "Whenever there is a decline in dharma, I incarnate in order to establish righteousness." Whenever God incarnates, he has the powers of omnipresence, omnipotence, and omniscience. The Purnavatar has 16 kalas, or potencies. The present incarnation of Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba is an embodiment of all the powers mentioned above. Sri Sathya Sai says, "If I had come holding the Shankh, conch, chakra, wheel, gada, mace, and padma, lotus, you would have run away from me or kept me in a museum. If I had come as an ordinary person like you would not have taken notice of me. Therefore, I have taken this human form, and I perform miracles from time to time to reveal my glory. I have incarnated to establish righteousness. The principles of truth, righteousness, peace, love, and non-violence dwell within me. To attain me, you must be truthful, follow righteousness, obtain peace through love, and you will become an embodiment of peace. To hate someone is also a type of violence." Swami also says, "Do not try to understand me. None can ever understand me. Instead, make efforts to attain the eternal bliss that I shower on you." Sakshatkar, self-realization, Chamatkar, miracles, and Paropakar, benevolence, are the qualities of an avatar, and all of us have seen these eminently in Swami. In fact, we find that the devotees who initially get attracted to Swami for Sakshatkar and Chamatkar later get so engrossed in Paropkar that they sincerely start treading the path of service. About benevolence, Swami says, I have taken birth to serve, and my life is my message. Who else but an avatar will have these special characteristics? Swami says, I only want your love. I can give my life for those who give me pure love. Those who have full faith and pure love, I am willing to do anything for them. Only a divine incarnation can make such a statement. The glory of Sri Sathya Sai Avatar has spread to millions of people all over the world. People from different religions, castes, and creeds are seeing him in the form of their desired deities. Here is a story exemplifying Swami's Avatarhood. During the 1972 summer shower courses at the Brindavan ashram, Mother Ishwaramma was also attending the course along with some other lady devotees. The course was in its 11th day. Early in the morning, Ishwaramma rushed to Peddabuttu and exclaimed to her, Do you know, our Swami is really God? On hearing this, Peddabuttu, a lady devotee, burst out laughing. Ishwaramma asked her, Why are you laughing? Peddabuttu replied, I am laughing because finally you are convinced that Swami is God. Peddabuttu further said, Tell me exactly what happened. Ishwaramma said to her, You know, for the last 3-4 days I have been unwell. Yesterday I had fever and I was unable to sleep at night. Swami came to me. Stopping her, Peddabuttu intervened. Did he come in your dream? No, no, said Ishwaramma. He came to me in person and asked me how I was feeling. I told him that I had a body ache. As I was saying this, I saw him as Prabhu Ramchandra with a crown on his head and a bow in his hand. I wanted to bend down and touch his feet, but I was so weak I couldn't get up. In a moment, Swami resumed his normal form. Smiling softly, he materialized Vibhuti for me and went away. Many devotees around the world have had similar experiences, which can come only from an avatar. What is different about the Sathya Sai avatar is that his power of love brings about transformation of the heart, which is his biggest miracle. Om Shri Sathya Sai Natarpanamastu. Om Shri Sai Sarva Bhaya Nivarine Namaha. Salutations to Sri Sai, who removes all fears. Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba declares, Why fear when I am here? Wherever a devotee may be, if he is able to experience Swami's presence with him, he becomes fearless. If his devotion is pure, the devotee does not fear, because devotion and fear cannot exist together. Sai dwells in a pure mind, and wherever he is, how can fear exist there? In the Shirdi avatar, Sainath used to say, Keep your gaze fixed on me, so that I can keep showering on you my gracious glances. When he says fixed gaze, it means to implicitly follow his instructions and abide by them in life. Only then can one become worthy of his grace, be the recipient of his benevolence, and be freed of all worries and fears. Here is a story from the times of the Shirdi incarnation. There lived a tailor named Kashiram in Shirdi. He had deep faith and love for Sainath. Out of his love, he stitched a green robe and offered it to Sai, who normally wore a white or an orange robe. But the loving Sainath accepted it and wore it. The tailor got great joy in giving dakshina to Sainath every day. This Kashiram used to travel to several villages on work. Once, while he was returning to Shirdi from Naur village, he was attacked by a group of tribals. Kashiram was seated on a horse. They surrounded him and robbed him of all his belongings. Initially, Kashiram did not resist them, but when they tried to snatch a small bundle of cloth from him, he opposed them strongly. What was there in that bundle which was so precious? Long ago, a realized soul named Janakidas Baba had instructed Kashinath to feed some sugar to ants every day. Since then, Kashinath followed the instruction, and always carried some sugar in that bundle of cloth. To prevent the robbers from taking the bundle, Kashiram snatched a sword from one of the tribals and attacked them fiercely. He killed two of them, but the third one struck him from behind with an axe. Kashiram fell off the horse and became unconscious. Fearing him to be dead, the robbers ran away. While all this was happening, Kashiram kept experiencing Sainath's presence with him all along, and he felt fearless. After some time, some passers-by found him. They brought the unconscious Kashiram to consciousness and wanted to take him to a hospital. But Kashiram refused and asked them to take him to Shirdi. At Shirdi, Sainath got him treated through Madhavrao Deshpande, and soon, by Sainath's grace, he recovered fully. When Kashiram was being attacked, do you know what happened at Shirdi? In the Dwarka Mai, Sainath suddenly started beating his chest, lost his temper, and caused a commotion. The devotees around him understood that Sainath was helping some devotee in distress. It was only due to his faith in Sai that the lone Kashiram was able to fight so many robbers fearlessly. Later, the government honored him for his bravery. In the present Bharti incarnation also, there have been several incidents where Sai devotees have been able to overcome fear during a crisis through their faith in Swami. One small incident. One night, some dacoits went to a remote house in a village, with the intention of looting. At the time, an old man was all alone in the house. On realizing the gravity of the situation, he stood in front of Swami's photograph and started invoking Swami, saying, "Swami, Swami!" Nobody knows exactly what happened, but the dacoits had a change of heart and they ran away. The Swami devotee was safe. Swami says, if one practices three things in life, he can become one with me. They are purity, patience, and perseverance. Whosoever imbibes these three qualities, wherever he may be, he will always be free from fear. Om Shri Sathya Sai Kalpadruma. Om Shri Sai Apastamba Sutraya Namaha. Salutations to Sri Sai, who was born in the line of Brahma Rishi Apastamba. The stick angrily raised by Pedda Venkaparaju slipped from his hands. Yes, it happened exactly this way. His son Satyanarayan had started performing miracles, and as the crowds around him began to swell, an angry Pedda Venkaparaju found his way from the crowds and marched towards Satyanarayan. He raised his club and demanded, "Tell me, who are you?" Satyanarayan was perfectly serene. In a calm tone he replied, "I am Sai Baba. My gotra is Bharadwaj, and lineage is Apastamba." Apastamba Rishi wrote the Sutra, which is a volume that defines all the religious rites and rituals. After doing penance for many years, he was finally blessed with the darshan of Lord Shiva. It was according to Shiva's boon that Shiva Shakti incarnated as Sri Sathya Sai in the Bharadwaja Gotra lineage and Apastamba Sutra line. In the past, many incarnations have taken birth in the family lineages of great sages. Sri Vishnu incarnated as Parshuram, as the son of Jamadagni Rishi. When Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh willed to incarnate as the triple incarnation, they chose Atri Rishi and Anasuya Mata as their parents, and Guru Dattatreya was born. Out of them, Brahma later became the moon. Mahesh took the form of sage Durvasa, and Sri Vishnu continued to stay as Lord Dattatreya in the ashram of Atri Rishi to pursue knowledge. The purpose of this triple incarnation was to spread knowledge and bring about spiritual upliftment in the world through the path of devotion. The present Sri Sathya Sai Avatar has incarnated to re-establish truth, righteousness, peace, love, and non-violence in the world, and through them lead mankind to attain the four Purusharthas: Dharma, righteousness; Artha, earn wealth by righteous means; Kama, have right desires; and Moksha, liberation. Om Shri Sathya Sai Kalpadruma. Om Shri Sai Abhayapradaya Namaha. Salutations to Sri Sai, who gives security to all. In the Ramayana, Prabhu Ramachandra has given a promise to the devotees. He says, Abhayam sarva bhutebhyo dadamyetat vratam mama. I have taken a vow that I will free all living beings from fear. We are so fortunate to have our Lord, Sri Sathya Sai amongst us, giving the same assurance. The devotees are attracted towards many different forms of God, but the one that attracts most is where his hand is raised in blessing, because from the Abhaya Hasta they draw strength to cross this turbulent ocean of life with confidence. In many photographs, we see Swami giving his blessings. His Abhaya Hasta makes us realize that we are under the umbrella of Swami's grace. A beautiful story about this Abhaya Hasta. Once, Swami was giving a discourse at Chennai. The pavilion was packed with devotees. They were engrossed in Swami's divine darshan and his discourse. Suddenly, from the audience, a 1-year-old child sitting in a lady's lap began to wail loudly. She tried to quieten him, but to no avail. Instead, he started wailing louder. Everyone around was disturbed, and was unable to hear and enjoy the divine discourse. Just then, from the dais, while continuing with the discourse, Swami smiled, looked in the direction of the child, and raised his Abhaya Hasta in blessing. Next moment, he closed his fist tightly. The child stopped crying, the discourse continued. Swami told the translator, "A 25 paise coin was stuck in the child's throat. Here, I have taken it out." Saying so, Swami opened his fist. There was a 25 paise coin in it. On seeing it, the translator was excited. He immediately related the narrative to the audience, and the audience responded with a thunderous applause. Here we must understand one thing. Although the child was on its mother's lap, she was unaware of the problem, so she did not even invoke Swami, and the child was too young to understand anything. But the one who grants freedom from fear, can anything remain unknown to him? Om Shri Sathya Sai Arpanamastu. Om Shri Sai Ratnakar Vamshodbhavaya Namaha. Salutations to Sri Sai, who is born in the dynasty of Ratnakar. Bhagavan Baba says, whenever God incarnates, he chooses a suitable dynasty and a place. Baba chose the Ratnakar dynasty. Sri Kondamaraju, who belonged to this dynasty, was a pious person. Devi Satyabhama, who was eagerly awaiting the arrival of Sri Krishna, had come in his dream and given him an indication about the advent of Sri Krishna in Puttaparthi in the years to come. The pious Sri Kondamaraju had close relations with many realized souls. He used to discuss spirituality with many of them. Among these was Venkavadut, a very learned and luminous person. Once, Sri Kondamaraju and Sri Venkavadut were sitting in a banana grove and talking with each other. Suddenly, Venkavadut held Kondamaraju's hand in his and said to him, "God himself is going to incarnate in your family." In order that the meaning be clear to Sri Kondamaraju, he repeated this sentence thrice, and added, "You will have the good fortune to see this." Saying so, he went away and never returned again. Who was this Venkavadut? He was none other than the one named Venkusa, whose name is mentioned in the Sri Shirdi Sai Satcharitra. A fakir nurtured Shirdi Sai when he was a small child. After his death, his wife handed Bala Sai's responsibility to Venkusa, who was a learned, pious soul. Bala Sai spent 12 years in his company. Venkusa nurtured this child with love and imparted knowledge to him. With the result, the other children in the ashram began to envy the child. One of them hurled a brick at this divine child with the intention of killing him. To save the child, Venkusa came in the way and took the brunt on his body. After this incident, the child decided to leave the ashram. Later, he came to be known as Sri Sai Baba. After Sainath's Samadhi, Guru Venkusa wandered from place to place all over India. He met Kondamaraju of the Ratnakar dynasty and told him, "God himself will incarnate in your dynasty." On the morning of 23rd May 1940, when Bala Satyanarayana moved his hands in thin air and distributed sugar candy and flowers to all the members of the family, the news spread like wildfire, and people from the neighborhood flocked around Satyanarayana. Pedda Venkappa was not home at the time. Somebody gave this news to him, and he rushed home. Finding his way through the crowds, he stood in front of Satya. Angrily, he raised the club in his hand at Satya and asked, "Who are you? Devil or ghost? Or a madman? Tell me the truth or I will beat you up." Satya was calm. He replied peacefully, "I am Sai Baba, Gotra Bharadwaj, Sutra Apastamba. I have taken birth in the Ratnakar Vansha dynasty as a consequence of your prayers to Venkavadut. The word Ratnakar also means an ocean. During Samudra Manthan, churning of the ocean, many precious gems emerged from it, so it came to be known as Ratnakar. May this ocean of compassion constantly shower his blessings on all the devotees. Om Shri Sathya Sai Kalpadruma. Om Shri Sai Shirdi Sai Abheda Shakti Avataraya Namaha. Salutations to Sri Sai, whose glory is not different from that of the Shirdi Avatar. Prior to his birth and since his birth, Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba has performed many miracles to show that he is God incarnate. But on 23rd May 1940, he declared for the first time that he is Sai Baba. To prove this, he asked for a handful of fresh jasmine flowers and threw them on the ground. Miraculously, they formed the word Sai Baba in Telugu alphabets. Even prior to this incident, thousands of years ago, the sages Bhrigu, Vashishta, and Shuka have recorded about the advent of the triple incarnation of Sai, Shirdi Sai, Sathya Sai, and Prema Sai. This has been written on the Bhurja Patra, papyrus leaves in Sanskrit language. After the proclamation of his Avatarhood, Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba has shown us through many leelas that he was Shirdi Sai in his earlier incarnation. Sharadamma, a lady devotee who had the good fortune of spending some time in the presence of the Shirdi Avatar, spent the latter part of her life in the divine presence of Sathya Sai Avatar. Srimati Hirabai Badodekar, Sri Pandurang Dikshit's mother, received blessings from both the avatars. They saw many similarities in the two forms, in the manner of speaking, facial expressions, and the method of performing miracles. This is a story from the times prior to the establishment of Dharmakshetra. Once, during a visit to Mumbai, Swami was residing at Sri Modi's bungalow in Andheri. One morning, he called Sri and Srimati Pandurang Dikshit to the bungalow for an interview. Accordingly, the couple reached there early in the morning, but Swami did not call them till 3 p.m. in the afternoon. Both husband and wife kept waiting under the staircase without having taken any food. Finally, at 3 p.m., Swami walked down the staircase and on seeing them, said, "Oh, Dikshit, how was your fast?" "Today is Thursday. It is good. What a tapascharya. Come in." For about an hour, Swami showered his grace on them. At 4 p.m., suddenly Swami said, "I want to see the documentary you have filmed on Shirdi Sai. Go and bring it." Obeying Swami's directive, Mr. Dikshit immediately left for the office, where the film was being processed. In fact, this film had been given for processing just 2 days prior, and Mr. Dikshit knew that it would take at least 8 to 10 days for it to get ready. But with faith in Sai and in obedience to his word, Sri Dikshit reached the office. As he entered the premises, he saw a peon carrying 2 large boxes over his shoulders. These boxes contained the reels of the documentary on Shirdi Sai. It seems the film was processed through a new method, hence it was ready in 2 days. Sri Dikshit rushed back to the Modi bungalow with those boxes. Swami had invited a few select devotees. Sri Dikshit garlanded Swami and started the film with his permission. As each scene flashed on the screen, Swami would describe it in great detail. On seeing the statue of the horse Shyam Sundar, Swami said, "He was a cook by the name Shyam in his earlier birth. Later, when he was born as a horse, Sai named him Shyam Sundar." While commenting on Sai's portrait in Dwarka Mai, he said, "Kaka Jaikar kept persuading me to grant him permission to do this portrait. I had to sit in front of him for 2 whole days." In this manner, Swami described every scene in detail. After the documentary got over, Swami said, "Do you know why I saw this film today? I saw the film and celebrated my birthday today." Everyone present there was surprised by this comment, because Swami's birthday falls on 23rd November, and the date on this particular day was 28th September. How could this be? Swami immediately cleared the doubt. He said, "Not mine, but of my earlier body." From this incident it is very clear that there is no difference whatsoever between these two incarnations. To date, Swami has never visited Shirdi in his physical form, but the way he described each and every detail while seeing the documentary, doubts, if any, about the oneness of these two incarnations get dispelled. Om Shri Sathya Sai Kalpadruma. Om Sri Sai Shankara Namaha. Salutations to Sri Sai, who is the embodiment of Shankara, the all-blissful auspicious God. Shankareti iti Shankaraha is the meaning of Shankara. To explain further, Shan means happiness, and Kara means the one who bestows. Shankara is the God who bestows bliss and prosperity upon us, and Sai is Shankara incarnate. So, Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai bestows happiness upon us. Since childhood, Satyanarayana had a habit of drawing a horizontal line of vibhuti on his forehead. He used to tell his elder sister to put a big dot of kumkum in between the lines of vibhuti. If the vibhuti or kumkum got wiped out, Satyanarayana would insist on applying it again. But everyone realized its significance much later, that vibhuti symbolizes Shiva and kumkum symbolizes Shakti. Later, in 1940, at the Virupaksha temple in Hampi, Bhagavan Baba gave a vision of his form in place of the Shivalingam, and revealed for the first time that he and Virupaksha were one and the same. When the foundation work of the Prashanti Mandir commenced, many bases which support the Shivalingam were found underground. Someone asked Baba, "Where are the Shivalingams?" He smiled and pointed towards his stomach. None really understood the meaning of this gesture at the time, but when the Lingodbhav started during Mahashivratri, the mystery was cleared. Shiva loves Vibhuti. The Divine Father Shiva smears Vibhuti all over his body, so he is known as Vibhuti Bhushan. In the Shirdi incarnation, Sai created the burning fire through his yogic powers and lit the Akhanda Dhuni, the eternal fire. He used to distribute the Udi, Vibhuti or ash, from this fire as prasad. Today, Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba materializes the sacred eternal Vibhuti and gives it to his devotees. Here is one more story about the Shankara Rupa of Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. There was a devout couple who were very sad because they had no issue. The lady undertook severe penance and worship of Guru Dattatreya and was able to secure his grace. Those who knew about her wish insisted that she should seek blessings of some realized souls and accept a guru. But the lady had resolved in her mind that unless she got verily the vision of God himself in a guru, she would not accept him as a master. Once, her husband became seriously ill and had to be hospitalized. At that time, Sri Sathya Sai gave her darshan in a dream and called them both to Puttaparthi. When the couple reached there, Swami called them for an interview. In the first interview itself, he gave her darshan in the form of Shankara, with the crescent moon on his forehead, Ganga falling from his head, and Vibhuti smeared all over his body. This Sai Shankara then filled their life with so much joy that it left no place for any sadness or regret. With the darshan of Sai Shankara, all our sins get washed away, and on getting his charan sparsh, we become free from bondage. Bhagirath undertook severe penance and brought the Ganga down to earth from the heavens. The powerful force of its waters would have flooded the earth. So Bhagavan Shiva Shankar held her in his hair, and later she started flowing on earth in a regulated manner to bless all. All the people rejoiced. Today, Sai Shankara has undertaken Sri Sathya Sai drinking water projects all over India, and has given happiness to all the people with the Ganga of grace. Om Shri Sathya Sai Kalpadruma.